Alright, I want to talk a little bit in this video about a term that I've been seeing a lot of lately. The term death by 1,000 cuts. Now, I want to talk about it in an interesting way though. The definition of death by 1,000 cuts is, you know, you die by multiple wounds inflicted over a long period of time. That's what it is. Now, I want to talk about that in a metaphorical state. I want to talk about it in the metaphorical state of average or unattractive men and what can happen over years and years of abuse. Now, death by 1,000 cuts has a very interesting meaning when it comes to attractive or unattractive men because the correlation may not seem like it's there at the very beginning, but as I deep dive into the explanation I have for it, then it will. A man can only take so much. Every man has that primal nature in them to conquer, to divide and conquer. It's in our DNA to divide and conquer. Now, that sounds very primal, I know, but it's true to some degree. And when a man is rejected, disrespected, just treated like absolute garbage by men, women, anyone who he meets in his day-to-day life, even maybe his family or peers, a man can only take so much of that before he snaps. And you gotta think about it. The average man, or let's say the average man, is always going to be tested by women in a sense that they're always going to be treated negatively by women. They're always going to be told that they can't have it, or they can't be a certain thing, or they can't act a certain way, because it's going to come off as, if an attractive guy acts a little bit arrogant, a little bit full of himself, it comes off as like, I guess cocky at the same time, yeah, but in a good way. It comes off as confident. When an unattractive or average man acts very arrogant, it's like, why are you doing that? That's how women think. It's completely unfair, by the way. This is just overall just not fair, but nature and life isn't fair. It's all just it's all biological. All it is are human beings choosing the best set of genetics to procreate, the best traits and genetics to reproduce with. It's not anything bad. That's why I hate when human beings say that caring about looks and looks alone make you, or primarily make you like a bad person or a narcissist, or just make you overall seem like shallow. It is ingrained in us as human beings to choose the best biological, the best biological traits to reproduce with. That's just in our biology. Now, back to the topic at hand, 1,000 cuts. Death by 1,000 cuts. A man will be born, go through school being made fun of, go through high school and be bullied, then graduate high school with these delusions of grandeur that he's going to become something, just to work a dead-end job and watch as all the people in high school who were popular go on to do even better things. When people say, it is possible that you can peak after high school. I did. That is possible. But it isn't. I don't like the misconception that everyone who was popular or was doing something in high school just falls off after high school, and that the people who weren't doing anything or were weird, it's their time to shine. No, that's not the case. The people who were doing stuff in high school are going to be most of the time better than you if you didn't. That's just the law of the world. That's the way it works. They were making connections and networking and experiencing things that you weren't experiencing at that time. So in a sense, they have a better grasp on life. They have experienced more, so therefore they understand and know more than you. And that doesn't work in every case, like I said, but in the majority of cases, it does work that way. So I don't understand why people have this idealistic notion that the weird people, the people who weren't really going to parties like that in high school, or just overall non-popular people, are going to thrive after high school over the ones who were. That's not the case. People who peak in high school don't just fall off after. In fact, they go on to do better. They have that drive in them. That's why they peaked in high school in the first place. Or maybe it's not that drive, but they have something going for them. Whether it be athleticism, looks, intellect, socialism. It doesn't matter what it is. They have something going for them. So they have something that allows them to rise above the rest. And they'll continue to do so in the real world. They'll dominate above those they did in high school, but as a bigger playing field. Anyway, average men or unattractive men get it the worst because they're treated like trash and the entire upbringing of their life, and then they graduate high school and they work some dead-end job and are forced to watch those who treated them so poorly go on and live these great lives, and while they're stuck in the same situation that they were hoping that they were praying, just not even praying, they were certain they were going to escape after high school, but they don't. They just find themselves in a new form of it. A form that if they don't do something to stop is going to be a permanent form, because now they're in the real world and they have a real job, so it's like it's more set in stone if they don't do anything this time. They're not just going to get bailed out by a new phase in their life like they did in high school. Now, it's very interesting because I say if they don't do something about it, very few can do something about it. They can try to find a relationship, but they're going to get shot down most of the time. They can try to get that promotion, but they're not going to have that charisma or charm to get it. They can try to perfect their craft, but theoretically they're only going to be taken a certain level because, the average man isn't really in shape. The average man doesn't necessarily look as good as it would take to reach that level. They're not going to be as driven because of how they look. They're not going to have that aspiration or goal to thrive. They're not going to see themselves in a confident light because their entire life they've been undermined. So how can you expect somebody who's been undermined their entire life to turn that immediate undermining into fuel to motivate themselves? That's not how it works. I don't get how people say turn fuel into turn being the underdog into motivation. It's very hard for most people to do that. Most people can't just take being treated like crap their entire lives and then eventually use that to turn it into anger, and then that anger makes them do better. No. Most people who are treated like trash their entire life are going to be victims when they grow up, and it's going to be twice as hard for them to get out of that mindset than had they not been treated like that their entire life. It's like, for example, if you have a very attractive person who you've kept away from a mirror their entire life, and they've been told they're ugly their entire life, even if they're not, they are going to look in the mirror and believe that they are ugly because that's what they've been told their entire life. What you've been told and what you've been given your entire life is how you're going to turn out, unless your will is like God, which it's hard not to turn. It's hard to turn out differently than what you're given and programmed to see and think your entire life. You're gonna become those things. That's why they say the set 5 people you hang out with or who you end up becoming. The 5 people you're around the most or who you end up becoming. And I believe there's some truth to that. I don't think it's that extreme, but I believe there's truth to it. Now, like I was saying, average and below average men are going to have it the worst because they're going to be treated like that. They're going to have this dead-end job. They're going to watch these people who treated them like crap living their best life. And they're going to be stuck in the same position they were in high school, alone. But this time they're going to have bills to pay. They're going to have car payments. They're going to still be lonely. They're going to try to approach girls because they're thinking, they're deluded. They're thinking, well, I'm in high school, so I'm not getting a girlfriend because there's only this many amount of girls. Now that I'm in the real world, there's billions of girls, so I'm bound to get one, and they try again and again and again, and they're rejected again and again, even by women who they may deem look worse than them, because you gotta think about it, in a woman's mind, her standards are always going to be higher than what she truly is. So even the ones who may not look as great are going to want the guy who does, or the guy who makes a lot of money, or the guy who's ripped, or the guy who's tall. They're always going to want that. So these guys who are thinking they're just going to go out and maybe they're not going to have the best girlfriend, but they're going to at least find their looks match, are sadly mistaken, because they're actually not. They're going to go out in public and try, and time again, they're going to be humiliated over and over, and it's going to bring back that same high school mentality for most of them. And eventually they're going to snap. They're going to snap, and they're going to go on a rampage and do something crazy. And see, now that scares me, people like that, because people who have nothing to lose should be the people you fear the most. They should be the scariest person, because they will throw it away for anything. It could just be that day that they decide they've had enough. They will throw it away for anything because they don't care. They're already at rock bottom in their mind. They cannot get any worse, and they're negative thinkers. So they don't go, in their mind, they don't go, okay, we're at rock bottom, so now we're gonna, we can go up from here. Only way we can go is up. No, they're gonna go, we're at rock bottom, so if we go in here and we do, what I'm hinting at. If we do what this to a bunch of people, it's not gonna matter if we something happens to us, because we're already so far gone. Who cares? That's how they think, and that's terrifying. But it's true though, death by 1,000 cuts. Overall, men, average men, and unattractive men are just treated like trash their entire lives, over and over and over. They're always given the short end of the stick, and they're never given a chance to prove themselves, and they're always just associated with bad traits. Pretty people are associated with the halo effect, which are traits that they may not even have, but people associate with them based off of how they look. There's something called the horn effect, which is for unattractive or average-looking people. It's mostly for unattractive people. They're associated with negative traits. Even if they're not true, people associate those negative traits on them based on how they look. Whether that be they're mean, whether that be they smell bad, whether that be they're just overall unhygienic. Jesus Christ. whether they be not athletic. Those may look stupid, those may all not be true, but it doesn't matter because based on how they look, that's what people are going to assume about them. And the number one rule is whatever other people perceive you to be is what you are. It doesn't matter what you truly are. All that matters is what other people see and perceive, because that's what the mindset of you they're going to have in their head, and that's what's going to matter in their eyes. What you think about yourself should not, I mean, obviously it should matter to an extent, but the most important thing is not what you think about yourself. It's what everyone around you thinks about you. That's how you're going to have the most success, is if the other people around you could hate yourself. You could think you're an absolute trash person. You could think you're an absolute loser. If the people around you see you as a winner or see you in some sort of value, like valued light, like they can gain something from you, then you're fine. You'll be fine, regardless of what you think of yourself. It's more power on your part to have those around you in favor of you rather than you favoring yourself. And average and unattractive men are just never going to have that. They're always going to get the short end of the stick, and they're always just going to keep declining. They're going to just dive into this dark abyss of life that they weren't even expecting. They were hoping that after high school, they were banking after high school and everything getting better because they were going to get a house and a car and they were going to be able to have this freedom. They weren't living with their parents anymore. But in reality, you see all these average and unattractive men that are telling you, I wish I still lived with my parents, because they realize that this bachelor life is only for these men who are, the top 20% of men. I know it sounds generic, but it's true. Women are upping their standards to the point where the top 20% of men are the only ones who are getting any kind of women anymore. Other men are just deprived of it. So it's like, what's the point of living alone? That's like the one strive for men to get their own place is, have girls over and stuff like that. But if they can't even get that, then why are they even alone? Why are they living alone? And over time, they just keep hitting these declines in life, these little declines, like maybe something gets stolen from their car, or these big declines like a family death. It doesn't matter. These cuts keep being made, and over time, they start to wither away because these people start to get weaker because these cuts keep becoming more and the cuts get deeper, and it's just over time these men can't take it, and they do something drastic that is terrifying to me. So all of today I've been seeing that term, death by 1,000 cuts, and it got me thinking about how metaphorically death by 1,000 cuts can be associated with unattractive and average-looking men to a T, because they live that life every single day. They live that life every day. Every day is a new struggle. Every day is a new reason why they can't get the girl. Every day is a new reason to not be energized. Every day is a new reason to not work out. Every day is a new reason to just not win. They're either exactly where they ended up the day before, or they're losing and declining. And sometimes, sometimes there's a twisted, joke where they'll go 2 steps back, and then something will happen. They'll feel good about himself for a little while and be like, yeah, we're doing it. And then something will happen that'll put them 3 steps back. So they're worse off than what they thought they were getting better than. They're not even back where they started. They're worse than when they started. That's gotta be demotivating. That's gotta make people not want to try, And it's just insane to me how this isn't talked about as much. How these men just, it can be any, obviously both genders, but these men mostly, because let's face it, an unattractive woman is still going to have options. This may be not true, but I saw this study where on Tinder, they had an unattractive woman's profile made, like a fat woman, and then an attractive model man. And they wanted to see how many matches, not the quality of matches, but the quantity, the number of matches that the woman and the unattractive woman and the attractive man got. They were instantaneous, they were similar, they were the exact same. So that goes to show you that an attractive man, a top tier looks man, is going to get the same amount of matches as an unattractive, ugly woman or fat woman. And that's insane to me. So that shows you that even unattractive women have a place in this world, but unattractive men, they're just existing until they die. The only thing that's stopping them from dying is their fear of death. Their brain wants to keep living on. So they just continue to, roam the earth looking for some sort of cope that they can attach themselves to, but they never will be able to replicate what they truly desire, which is a woman. Just success in general, being treated like a human being, but mostly women. Let's just face it, that's what men desire. And I just think that's really sad. It's honestly so unfortunate. I'm not going to say it's unfair because biologically it can't be unfair, but it's unfortunate that these unattractive and average looking men will always come out short, and they'll always, every day of their life, experience a new cut that adds to that the death by 1,000 cuts. It'll always add to that 1,000th cut that finally they can't take it anymore. They've had enough. And when that day comes, I hope to not be anywhere in the vicinity because I'm terribly afraid of that happening.